Michigan students not up to par when it comes to reading. That's the finding of the National Kids Count report, which was released early this morning. Among the findings, 70% of Michigan fourth graders are not reading at their grade level. That's below the national average of 68%. It ranks Michigan 34th in the country. Our 24-hour News 8's Tony Tagliavia broke down the numbers for us a little bit earlier in the newscast. And joining me now to talk more about this report that was released at midnight last night, Cheryl Endress, Early Reading First Director from Grand Rapids Community College. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Sure, no problem.
Now, you had a chance to look at the report.
I did.
What was your first reaction to it when you heard Michigan ranking 34th in the country with these numbers?
Well, I think we've known that these issues are out there for a long time. It goes back to the Nation at Risk. So it's been since 1989 that these issues have been brought up. So we just need to move forward, follow the call to action by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and try to live the promises that were started way back then.
Okay. You talked about some of the problems that were addressed back then. You can't help but notice the difference in numbers regarding black and white students. Let's talk more about that.
Sure. Well, we need to make sure that there's access to quality education for all children in our communities, no matter whether they're in the inner city or in the suburbs. And learning begins at birth. So this is a birth to pre-K or to third grade effort that they're talking about. So we need to make sure that there's parent education. It's a full-pronged approach. Parent education, access to quality preschool, which means teacher education and quality needs to improve for everyone in our communities. And so all of those things need to be put in place as building blocks. Before you can learn to read, you need to begin to learn how to read and learn the precursor skills to reading.
So a few different approaches then. You're saying better preschool, in the home with parents more. What about the schools?
The schools need to do a better job of closing the achievement gap in terms of summer loss of learning. It needs to be a full-pronged approach. So the schools need to increase rigor, and the standards in Michigan need to be matching the National Assessment for Educational Progress standards here. The MEP, the report indicated that the MEP standards are below basic in some areas compared to the National Assessment for Educational Progress. So we need to make sure our standards are rigorous, our teachers are ready to teach children to a rigorous standard, so all children are prepared, and the very first thing that parents can do is talk with their children. Oral language is the very beginning of...
I was going to say, what are some of your suggestions for parents who want to get their kids interested in reading but are finding resistance at home?
Sure. Well, talking is the very first thing. Even if the family is low literate, they can talk, they can look at pictures, they can tell children what the things are representing. In the grocery store, you can talk about the different fruits and vegetables. Increasing the child's vocabulary is really the key. There's already a gap when the children from poverty come into school. There's a 20,000 word gap if they're not talked to at home. So the very beginning is oral language.
Interesting. Okay, Cheryl Endress, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Early Reading First Director from Grand Rapids Community College. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate your insight tonight.